be able to finish the whole thing. If I don't finish it, just restart. But I'm trying to do it in pieces so that the videos won't be as long as they were the last time. It's like those were like grouping of like weeks of notes. But yeah. So let's see where we need to start at. Okay. So today our main topic is going to be how did federal policy toward Native Americans shift during the 1800s? Um, so they had a lot of war because the Native Americans they were here first. When the Europeans came over, they wanted to take over. Like, hey, this is our place now. We own this. They were like bullies. They had more weapons. They were more modernized, so they could rush them out faster. So there was a little war because, of course, the Native Americans did not go without a fight. Um, they had the Transcontinental Railroad. Road. I'm just going to list the things now because later on I'm going to talk about them actually. They had the Gold Rush and the Homestead Act, which was free and cheap land for farmers. It brought settlers into closer contact with the plant. Oh, I'm so sorry. With the Plato Indians, I think it is. Like the Sioux and the Apache Indians. Series of Native American laws. So they the when the Europeans came over, they made a lot of laws like to try to make the Indians feel good, but it wasn't really helping them. So I mean, like, what are you doing? Relocation. They try to move them over and try to move them away from where they wanted to be. So like, hey, this is our place, but I'm pretty sure over there is real nice too. So you guys can just go over there. Why didn't you guys go over there? So, they relocated them. They had reservation systems which forced the Native Americans to stay on land away from civilization. And by civilization, they mean white people or whatever people they had in over there. But because they thought that the Native Americans weren't civilized, they lived in teepees, they hunted food, they didn't really plant like that. So, of course, they didn't want to live with people. That's like us saying we want to go live in the zoo. I mean, like, hey, but still, they were humans. That's a whole other different thing. So, but Native Americans governed themselves by their own tribal councils on these um, reservations. So it's like they still have their own land, but that's like saying, hey, you can live in this house, but you cannot go anywhere outside of this house. So that wasn't really like good, but that's how they were living. Forced assimilation. Assimilation means to be like someone else, to blend in, to change who you are, to fit in. So they wanted the Native Americans to assimilate themselves. Stop living in teepees and come build houses with us. Take up land. Cut down more trees. Let the trees die out so we can live. Awesome. Anywho's, with that being, we had the Dawes Act, which was forced Native Americans on reservations to acquire private property instead of sharing land communally in order to encourage individuality and agriculture in exchange of citizenship. So now you can't be a citizen unless you abide by our laws and you live how we tell you to live. So that's how they had to live. Um, so now these are like, let's see, these are like 12 questions, right? I don't know if I'll be able to get through all of them, but I'm gonna try, really, really try. Why did settlers collide with Native Americans? They collided because they were on property that they wanted to use. Like I already said, hey, we want this property, you gotta go. Which tribes were located in the West? The Cherokee, they had to move, they moved out into the West. The Sioux and the Cheyenne. What happened at Sand Creek? They had a battle at Sand Creek. The Union came up to a Cheyenne camp and killed almost 100 women and children, mainly. You know, men obviously were killed, but wasn't as much. Um, I can't remember the name of the horse. I think it's here. But that person, whoever that Indian was, or whatever that figure was, encouraged the Indians to fight. Said, "Hey, don't move, fight." So they did fight. Um, or is this the one I'm talking about? Yeah, they did fight, and they lost 100 kids and stuff. So yeah. What happened to the main food source of the Native Americans? They were destroyed in the 1870s. Their main food source was buffalo. The Europeans thought, hey, if we kill out their food, guess who they're gonna have to come to eat? So then they would have to fall into our civilization so that they won't starve to death and die out. But they ended up dying out anyway. So I guess they should have just stayed where they were at. Um, what happened at Wounded Knee? That I think that's what I meant. I can't really remember Sand Creek, but Wounded Knee is what I was talking about when the person I'm gonna read it. At Little Big Horn, a group of 700 men, along with their leader, which was Custer, were killed. At Wounded Knee, 200 plus Sioux men, women, and children were killed. With rapid fire artillery, that was the final Indian War. No, I was right. Sand Creek. Sand Creek. So sorry. Sand Creek is where they were, yeah. Um, the final Indian War was in South Dakota. Explain the reservation system. If the tribe submitted to the government, they were given lands, along with food, blankets, and seeds, but were often cheated. Um, the people that were supposed to bring the food and blankets to them, they stole it instead of bringing it to them. So like, hey, they not really nothing. We only bringing them here so that they would agree to give us land. So why not just take their stuff? The people won't believe them anyway. Maybe they'll say they're trying to cheat. So they stole their stuff. So the Indians, they started to starve. They didn't have anything to cover up with and all that. It was like let's say it's a plot of land like the size of Orlando, and that's where they were. But they could not leave that, or else they will be captured and brought back. So they had people come to them. So it's like, say you're in a jail. Hey, you can go outside, but if we catch you outside those walls, we are catching you and throwing you back into jail. Okay. What types of corruption occurred in the reservation? They were trained that their beliefs were wrong, and that the Native Americans trained the Native Americans under their beliefs. They wanted men to farm when that was a woman thing instead of hunting. They tried to take away their whole culture. They didn't want them to. They hunted. You never heard me say anything about them farming. They hunted. The Native Americans, they hunted for everything they had. The women farmed, mainly. So for the Europeans to come in and say, hey, we know you've been here for about 200 plus years, but we want you to farm instead of hunt now. So that was kind of an insult to their culture. You can't just come in. It's like Christianity. You can't just come in and tell somebody, hey, your beliefs are wrong. We need you to change them. That's what they were doing. What were the reservation systems like? The lands the Native Americans were transferred to were infertile and undesirable. They wanted them to farm, but it didn't give them no good land to farm on. So what are you telling me? You telling me that you want to conform me. And later on you would see that they wanted to help the Native Americans. Like, hey, why not just start buying property so you don't have to live on a reservation? Buy property and stuff. Those properties were still infertile and stuff. So they really had it tough. Like, no matter what they did, no matter how they turned or how they played with these people, they still got messed up again. How were Indians allowed to live on the reservation? They could not leave reservations and must listen to the government. So I just explained that where they couldn't leave, they would be captured, turned back, only people could come in. So yeah. How did reformers think Indians should be Americanized? By getting private properties and instituting ways of the white man. So that comes along with believing what they believed. That comes along with farming. Just being Europeanized. I don't know how you say that. But yeah, so that's what they wanted them to do. And yeah, I can't really spend all this time because I don't have a lot of time. But what were the stipulates and the Dawes Act? It was to destroy Indian culture. What were the stipulations of the Dawes Act? It destroyed Indian culture, less food. They had worse schools. They had no. What is that? I don't know. I figured it out. They could not sell land for 25 years. So like, they felt like that was doing the Indians good things, so that they couldn't just get their stuff stolen. So like, hey, we want you to buy land, but you can't sell it for 25 years because we want you to be able to keep your land, be able to make food for your family. That was also a way of conforming them. That was kind of like slavery. When they did sell, they received discrimination. When they did not, I think that's when they did not want to sell. They received discrimination, unemployment, and poverty. So like, no one would buy from them, sell from them, stuff like that. List and explain three major shortcomings. This is the last question. List and explain three major shortcomings of the Dawes Act. It threatened Indian survival because they had to conform to the civilization, and they lost wars. It wasn't as much as them. They didn't have enough manpower. They didn't have guns and artillery. They just came in with everything. Europeans came in with everything. Economic hardships, bad lands given to Indians. They never had help, and they had bad education. So the white man promised them education, but they had like worse schools. Like, I don't know, like it doesn't specify like, oh, the building itself was bad, or like how they taught it was bad. But either way, it was worse than what the Europeans were receiving. So you want to say you guys are equal, but we're receiving like the messed up end of the stick. They had to sell off the lands, sold lands for close to nothing. So when they did sell their stuff, it was so close to anything. So yeah, so they didn't really live a good life, but later on, as we get deeper into it, you'll see how like everything plays out.